What's up, guys? Me and guys, we're playing Roblox. Okay, yeah, 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 yeah. Alright, where we're gonna go? Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Are you? Driving me through.
Well,
I can do it with the broken roads.
fine.
I'm so different, like it's my birthday. Every day.
Those big men with this way your balls come low. I like that one. Because you're scared. You know I'm playing hardball, except with the balls or questions.
No.
Time I drop a bottle.
Guys,
What?
puppet. That puppet
Yeah.
will play well. And then,
Alright. You're the mayor, and what am I? What am I?
that was and then. Guys,
What?
Oh my god. It's real. Oh my gosh.
behind.
I'm so nervous. This is 30 hours of my life.
What?
I just
Wait.
did this all for nothing.
It's behind me. Up. Behind. I don't die. Uh-oh. Stop. Puppet.
I'm sitting here, and I was watching the sunset, and then an ad played right above on the clouds out there, man. I swear to God. Shitty world we live in, man. There's ads everywhere. Everywhere you look, ads. Want the sunset.
Way to break your game in Diamond and Pearl by losing the starter battle at the very beginning against Starly.
We're gonna car wash.
Having the Starly
It's a car wash.
they actually messed up. I tried this battle over and over
No.
to see if it was
What
really
got
possible
wrong?
until I finally got it. My game is frozen. This gave me an idea though. How many
Guys.
viewers are out there
What?
like this in Pokemon?
Rainbow.
Interesting oddities
Right
just waiting
here.
to be proven that just take a little dedication and time to uncover.
No.
And what if I verified them myself?
Red blood.
So I collected a handful of rumors in
Oh,
Pokemon
let me
games
guess.
that I've heard about. Let's
Yeah.
get tests.
Da-da-da-da.
I've never done any shiny hunting in the 4th generation of Pokemon. You might know a
Right.
few tricks in your game to help find your targeted shiny.
Red.
One feature introduced in Generation
Right.
4 is the static Pokemon respawn trick. If you're completing the storm of Pokemon Diamond and Pearl and get to the part where you encounter a Dialga, and if you aren't ready to catch or shiny hunt the
I
Pokemon
got
right
down.
away, then you can knock it out instead of catching it. The Dialga will disappear as if you caught it.
That
But
Pokemon.
then, if I don't know or the Dialga
Why?
will spawn again, for you to attempt to recap.
Nice.
You can do
Turn
this
right.
over and over actually, as many times as you want. But this feature doesn't just extend to legendary Pokemon. Apparently, this mechanic covers all static Pokemon across the Generation 4 games. So I'm going to attempt to verify if this is really true, with a Pokemon that hardly anyone has ever knocked out in battle. If this rule is true, then the static Pokemon respawn trick should apply to the one and only Shiny Gyarados,
Turn right.
Lake of Rage.
Left.
Gyarados, an overworld
Turn
Pokemon with an overworld sprite, should fall
It's
under
left,
the
not
rules of
right.
static.
Red.
And
Yeah.
if I knock it out when I first encounter it
Turn
instead
red.
of catching it, once I beat the Elite Four, it should respawn.
Then if
in the
we go
Lake of
here,
Turn right.
yeah, that's right. This is left hand.
Right.
Shiny
What?
Pokemon. So most people will likely
What?
catch
Oh
Gyarados
You said turn
with a
right.
chance. And if they do knock it out, they would probably save before this, reset, and try
my.
again.
Turn right.
So I doubt hardly anyone has tested this
That
before.
green.
On top of this, I
That
have
green.
another thing
That.
I want to test at the
No.
same time.
That
One day out of the
green.
week, on
What?
Wednesday,
Green.
for
Here.
each side quest, the
Rainbow
entire lake will
color.
be drained,
Okay.
That green.
allowing you to access different areas
That.
in a slightly different environment than what's normally
That.
in
That
the other
green.
6 days. But
Fine.
What?
Did
just
that.
like the Gyarados on
That
Wednesday, is
green.
it possible to see
Ah,
Gyarados
okay.
in the drained lake of rage?
That the moving die.
Let's find out.
Die. The moving. Wait, wait. Ay.
No.
And then. No. Stop what? Right head. The up.
It's drained. Oh my god!
The.
Drained lake of rage Gyarados! It's real! Oh my gosh! It's possible! Wow! No.
Oh no.
That is so cool.
Ben. Die. Ben.
Oh no.
Introduce
The mayor died. Deserve. Run. Convicted felon. Like, oh no.
Yeah.
Never mind.
more specifically on
Nope.
or effective
Die.
What?
See, die.
Fine.
as a charge bug. Now, when you think about what this area is supposed to be within the lore of the game, it's
Die. Stop. Die.
magnetic electrical field around
Ben.
which causes your magnetic in some way Pokemon to evolve.
Die.
What's strange is that there's only a single location
Stop.
in the entire
Are you?
game where it can do
Ben.
this. And this never
Back?
makes sense to me. But given that the charge bug
Back?
was a Pokemon with generally
Were
low
you?
stats until you evolved it, wouldn't be viable to carry around until quite literally
No.
the end of the game
No.
where they place the magnetic field and evolve at level 55. No,
One.
there's
No,
supposed
go.
to be a magnetic field earlier in the game. It wasn't until I got in
Wait.
from my
Die.
viewers who claimed they had evolved the Charjabug in a different
go.
location, a magnetic
Prison.
field that isn't listed anywhere online, but is far earlier in the game.
Die.
And that's exactly what we're going to find and test.
Go.
The location my viewers
Die.
found all of their Pokemon was, of course, the electrical
Oh my god, we're gonna rub the back.
Die.
The location is in the
What?
Hokulani
Here.
Observatory.
Now, here.
Full of all these funny power surge things and charge bugs everywhere. It seems like if my viewer was
Wait,
telling the
Die.
truth,
Wait.
it would make
Stop moving.
sense. Considering this environment, physical effect.
What?
I scoured the internet to see if anyone
Mommy.
talked about this, but I found nothing. So either my viewer had misremembered, dreamed it, or they were about to make a huge discovery. Let's put it to the test. There are 3 ways I'd like to test this. Firstly, if I talk about the rare candy house outside this building, will it evolve? Secondly, I'm going to check if it only works inside.
No.
And if neither work,
Bye.
the final test is going to see if the Charjabug will evolve during the battle with the gym leader. Because that's exactly what this. After testing it outside, inside into every the halls, nothing. No evolution. Then I need to challenge the
Wait.
gym leader, and I realized my save file had only beaten him. Not only this, the same trainer is also an 4 member. So I realized the battle is a timed event. And I'm going to have to restart my entire save file and battle my way back to the game
Yeah, let's go.
until I can arrive back here at the proper time.
Die.
With Sun and Moon's
Done.
cutscenes and slow load times, over excessive dialogue, and the fact that
See.
the timing challenge is the 5th one, means this will take a long time. So after trying to rush through this painfully slow game, getting lost, losing to the Fire Island challenge hundreds of times since my entire team was weak at one. Come on, I traded for a few hours to take down these damn Marowaks. I've been playing this game for over 24 hours. Started at 4 a.m. Played all night, woke up, played all day. Until 4 a.m. the next day, and I've now finally arrived.
Die.
After all of this time,
Go.
right, I'm about to lose my life.
Money. Dad.
Starter Pokemon is now level 40. Everything
Follow
has
me.
reached its final evolution. This doesn't work, I just might zap cannon this world. Either way, I'm starting to charge. Not only did this take a long time, but truthfully, I just want surviving this one to be true. Did you mean? Let's do this. Oh, I forgot about the actual challenge. I have to arrange charge bugs in a puzzle for 30 minutes before I can even fight this guy. 1 second. And finally, we arrived at the battle. Mistake you try since this Togedemaru is way too damn strong. He kept calling an ally Pokemon to help, and I lost a few times. So
Dad.
that was annoying.
Wait.
Now it's time for the moment of truth. I made sure to have my charge bug leave one sliver of XP away.
Dad.
That way, once
That's right.
the charge bug guaranteed to fall. I finished off
Bye.
with my charge bug as my beat,
Dad.
just to watch all of my hard work pay off. 24 hours later, it's time to find out if this one is true.
Stop.
No, my
Bye.
God.
Right here.
No. Are you kidding me? I slightly
Dad.
lost my mind.
Dump. Bye.
Arcane.
Dad.
That this was
Hey,
true.
night child.
I misremembered, I don't know, but at this
Come
point,
like please.
so we're playing this game.
Dad.
Success. All these charge bugs. How could this
Dad. Fuck. It's
With you from day one. To help baby skin stay comfortable. Make you try.
You used to be stupid, and so did I. And some of you might still be, but most of us have grown quite a lot since we started playing Pokemon. So to appreciate how far we've come, I've assembled a list of 12 dumb mistakes in Pokemon that you and I made, taken directly from comments you all left on a post that I made on my community tab. I have ordered these entries such that as the video progresses, the mistakes will get kind of less whimsical and more painful. When you start your Pokemon journey, your starter Pokemon knows 2 or 3 moves. Damaging normal type move like Pound or Tackle, a stat affecting move like Growl or Tail Whip, and in later games a stab move like Leaf Edge or Ember. Then when you start battling with those moves for the first time, Tackle appears to be getting you closer to victory, while Growl doesn't seem to do anything. Then when similar moves start cropping up later, like Dragon Dance or Calm Mind, who cares? A classic. If it doesn't deal damage, it's useless. Yes, indeed. This mistake is ignoring non-damaging moves. And I'm guilty of this myself. In my earliest playthroughs, there would not be a single Pokemon in my party that knew any attack that was not a straight-up attack. Aside from maybe Thunder Wave for catching legendaries. Inflicting status conditions like Poison is more obviously helpful, but especially later game when the Elite Four start using full restores,
Okay, it's time
they
to play
don't
Pets
feel
Go.
that
It's
helpful.
modded.
And then
What?
stat-affecting
Wait, what?
moves like Sword
Why?
Stance? Why would I care
Fucking
about my
go here.
Pokemon doing a little dance with swords
Let me
if it's not gonna
be
use the swords? Then
Wait,
it's
what?
stupid. But then I got older, dabbled a little bit in the competitive scene,
What?
and learned, oh my god,
Die.
Wait.
some of these non-damaging moves are amazing. Toxic Spikes can win you battles you would not win otherwise. If the
Oh,
enemy
that-
Pokemon uses Dragon Dance,
Give
I
us
get
the
very scared.
below.
But also,
Yeah,
I
well, only one
myself have
video,
Dragon
like,
Dance sweeped many
Round-
playthrough battles. I've been in particularly tough fights where I used one move to drop the defenses of the enemy so I could bring in
Die.
another one.
Ah,
I wouldn't have
what?
been able to succeed that battle
Open
had I
the
not used
Yeah.
that non-damaging move. And to think so many years ago, myself and so many of you undervalued these status moves so much. However, some people, like Business Scrub, for example, have valued them the whole time. Just, incorrectly. Back in the day, I used to think stat changes were permanent. I spent an embarrassingly long time spamming Squirtle's Withdraw against Metapods and Kakunas, thinking that it was permanently raising my defense. I also had to, of course, counteract every enemy use of a stat move as often as possible, which led to me accidentally using stat boosting moves regularly as a kid, but in the most awkward, useless way imaginable. I gotta say, I think that's probably worse than not using them at all. This next mistake is one that I made, but I have to give you some important background information.
Ibang game na
I was a
lang
kid,
natin.
I
Ito.
poster of all the Johto Pokemon in Pokedex order. As
Ito
you
na,
can
ito
see,
na lang.
Dunsparce is
Dawai.
immediately
Try natin to,
followed by
private server.
Gligar. I got this poster before I had ever
Yeah.
played any of the video games. I'd only watched the show, and even when I did start playing the games, I started with Ruby, which does not have Dunsparce or Gligar. So because of their order on the poster, the blue on their bodies, their pointed tails, and not having anything to tell me wrong,
What?
for several years I mistakenly thought Dunsparce evolved into Gligar. I thought the prongs under Dunsparce's mouth turned over and became Gligar's horns. And I'm not the only one to get confused by this. Maybe the Dunsparce Gligar one specifically, I'm the only one. But a common childhood mistake is getting evolutions wrong. In the Fire Red Pokedex, it would place Pokemon based on their environment location. It'd have their evolution families pictured in little circles and organized like pages in a book. The Diglett line and Onyx shared a page.
What?
And for
You
the
already
longest
have
time,
that?
I thought Dugtrio
What's
evolved
this?
into Onyx.
Oh,
See,
3
that's basically
billion.
the same scenario as me. Although I will say, at least Dunsparce and Gligar have more in common aesthetically than Dugtrio and Onyx. Thinking that Electabuzz evolved into Mandibuzz.
What's the
Okay, that one I cannot defend. I mean, like, I get that they both have buzz in their name, but, like, one's a weird tiger and one is a vulture. Now, I cannot speak for these commenters about whether they ever actually acted upon these errors, but I personally never tried to evolve Dunsparce into Gligar, because I learned I was wrong. I never actually got a Dunsparce or a Gligar. And thus I never wasted any time trying to make it happen. However, some of you did waste time. Because you didn't get a species relationship wrong, you got an evolution method wrong. I was under the assumption that all Pokemon evolved by level and that all Pokemon could evolve, explaining me having a level 92 Kadabra and being sorely disappointed when I found out I needed friends to evolve it. Leaf Green was my first Pokemon game, and in one of my later runs, after having already had to restart because I got lost in Silphco, I accidentally released my starter just before facing Surge. Already, starting back here, but God. That wasn't the mistake, though, as it allowed me to rebuild my team around the unstoppable being that is Graveler. Pretty much soloed the entire game, but I did notice there was a spot for it to evolve into Golem in the Pokedex. Fortunately, I didn't know trade egos were a thing, so I just kept rock blasting the Elite Four repeatedly with my level 99 Graveler, hoping it would eventually evolve, or at the very least I would finally unlock whatever was in that cave by Cerulean City. This is Tyler, PM7's editor, and I asked him how old he was when all of these disasters happened, and he was 7. So it does make more sense. This next mistake might be the most common one on the list. You're given a starter and it's immediately better than most everything else in the area. Sure, some matchups aren't ideal, but you can get around them with the excessive levels it got by being the only one to hit the field. If your starter is so good, why use anything else? Using only your starter is such a common mistake that I would wager that most people who started playing Pokemon under age, 11 have done this. I definitely did. In both of my first 2 games, Ruby and Leaf Green, I used only my starters basically the whole way through. Blade the Sceptile and Squirt the Blastoise. Now, you can beat the games with just a starter, but you're gonna run into some really difficult matchups that would not be as difficult if you had a balanced team. In my first Ruby playthrough, I could not beat Brawly with only my Grovyle, so I spent ages grinding it up to a ridiculous level to win. And I'm not the only one who let my starter do too much work. My starter was a Typhlosion. Everything was great until young me saw Karen's Houndoom had Flash Fire for its ability. My moves were Flamethrower, Fire Blast, and Flame Wheel. Only coverage move was a Rollout. I was screwed. Oddly enough, Rollout seems like a pretty solid move in that situation. But, still not a great situation. The dumbest thing I ever did in Pokemon was that for my first time ever playing, I didn't catch a single one because I didn't know how. Using only my starter the whole time. I lost many times. Okay, this is the first one I've seen where they used only their starter, not because it was easier, but because they literally did not know how to do anything else. I just realized that I'm paying for a Poké Studio membership for a year. I cancel it. Pulled both hamstrings out. Sounds like you need to sponsor this video, Rocket Money. It's a personal finance app that helps you cancel subscriptions, lower bills, and just generally manage your money better. Did you just say Rocket Money? Oh, yeah, I did. It's funny, I didn't even realize until me and everything. All right. I'm
I
using
see
Rocket Money
lights.
to help me cancel subscriptions that I'm not using and maybe for
Ay,
good.
two
It
billion.
safely identifies recurring charges
Only
and
2
cancels
billion?
the ones you don't
Opo,
want for you,
not
all from
die.
the app without
Okay,
having to
ma'am.
call customer
Boy, may
service.
ilaw.
It's also handy for setting budgets to develop better spending habits, monitoring
Ako na may
spending by
ilaw na.
category, and notifying you when you've exceeded your limits. Rocket Money has helped save its customers up to $740 a year when using all the features, and over $500 million in canceled subscriptions. I need this. I can defeat Pilates with the power of a rocket money. Well, then join the 5 million members today by going to rocketmoney.com/MNJTV or by clicking the link in the description below where you can get started for free. And you can also unlock more features with premium. Rocketmoney.com/MNJTV. Got it. Time for my finances to blast off. In like a good way, to be clear. Ta-ta! This next mistake is one that Pokemon
My
causes
God,
by being honestly a deceptive game. It is a cute, generally kid-friendly franchise with cute or cool creatures to collect, but then the formula for attack damage looks like this. Then the stat page of a summary is a bunch of numbers, and while you were probably old enough to understand bigger number equals better, there's a lot going on here that isn't immediately clear. Because of that, I never really looked at my Pokemon stats growing up, and if you did the same, it likely led to this mistake. Ignoring physical versus special. In case you don't know today, physical moves are those involving physical strikes, usually with the Pokemon's body, and special moves tend to be ranged, energy-related attacks. Today, each move is classified individually, but before Gen 4, it depended on the type of move. This matters because some Pokemon like Machamp have high physical attack and poor special attack, and others like Alakazam are the opposite. Some Pokemon like Kingler were doomed to always be terrible before Gen 4, since it had sky-high physical attack, but all water moves were special. In short, if you don't understand the difference between physical and special, you're likely handicapping your Pokemon with moves that you think are going to be good, but actually stink. I didn't know about if attacks were physical, special, had extra effects. If the move name sounded cooler, my mons would learn it. Little me was shocked my Hyper Beam Gardevoir and Emerald didn't help a lot. To be fair, Hyper Beam isn't as bad on Gardevoir anymore because it's a special move now. Hyper Beam being physical because it was a normal type is one of the more famous examples of the type-based physical special split not really making much sense. Another famous one is like Fire Punch being special. It's literally a punch. Not understanding attack and special attack when I was a kid. Just
What?
going off type effectiveness and base power. The main memory I have of
That's
this,
right.
my Machop used Fire Blast on a Metagross and wondering why it only did about 1/8 of its health.
Die.
Ooh,
What?
yeah.
Already
Machop has a
did.
base
Oh.
special attack stat of
Diba?
only 50.
Ito?
No,
Also, how did
no.
it get to do anything against Psychic type
Eh.
Gross at all?
Ito?
Opo.
Sakit ng ulo sa sobrang ano po ng ngilo. Pag kumakain po ng malamig.
And
Hindi na po madalas mangilo. Maganda, matipid, at suwak sa budget. Sinabi mo nang di ka na kasama sa field trip?
Ah.
Mas unahin ko yung ano. Mas importante. Sama na naman kayo. Tapos, ikaw.
excited for a tea time together kahit magkalayo-layo.
Shut up.
Another not immediately obvious Pokemon mechanic is Stab, which is short for same type attack bonus. Any attack your Pokemon uses that matches the user's type gets a 50% boost in power. It's there so you actually have a reason to use a fire type Pokemon instead of just teaching Flamethrower to anything else that can learn it. Stab moves are very important, but
Hey, what's
generally,
this?
a Pokemon only needs one, maybe two, for one of its types. So your electric type could have reliable Thunderbolt and then maybe also stronger but risky Thunder if you really need a KO in that moment. Or your fighting type could have Mach Punch for priority in close combat. And low damage.
Oh my
Otherwise, you
god.
go to stats for the Pokemon's secondary type, or support moves like stat boosting or status inflicting. But inexperienced players may not understand this, thus leading to the mistake of having too many stat moves. As a teenager, I revisited my old red version. I was appalled at my younger self when I saw a super in my party with water-type damaging moves in its moveset. My Blastoise in Flare Red had Water Pulse, Surf, Hydro Pump, and Hydro It's all water, so it's stronger, right? My Sceptile and my old Emerald save literally just had Solar Beam, Leaf Blade, Giga Drain, and Bullet Seed. All stat moves
You don't!
in Pokemon games often have routes that are generally straight lines or simply wide open field. Older ones had literal mazes. Dungeons like Granite Cave or Mount Coronet
Can't do that.
Pokemon, and it's even tougher if it's something dark that needs flash. I had guidebooks as a kid, so I could always make my way out if I got a bit lost, but a lot of people didn't have that resource and got stuck
You
permanently. When I was a kid, I wasn't able to beat
Where's the
Pokemon
hearts?
Diamond because I was stuck in Mount Coronet, not being able to find the damn entrance to the cave in the snow area. And then to bring it back to Tyler's comment, which had a bunch of mistakes in one, Leaf Green was my first Pokemon game, and in one of my later runs, after having already had to restart because I got lost in Silphco. I know you're 7, but there was an elevator. But it's not just getting lost. This mistake covers all methods of just getting stuck. Getting stuck in Slateport City because I didn't know I could go under the cycling road. Same! In my first playthrough in Ruby, I was in Slateport for ages because I couldn't get past the team. And after my mom suggested talking to everyone in town, that magically made Team Magnet's an entrance and thus made it so I could move on. And then, of course, I got stuck again because I didn't realize you could go under the cycling road. So you could get stuck due to being lost in a cave or weird progression mechanics or Gardenia's gym. Oh my god! When the guy at the gym said to look in the trees for hidden trainers,
Apa? There's your door. Close the door.
I spent months thinking that the game was unbeatable or that I missed something, but then I heard someone at school talk about how he just beat Gardenia's gym and I thought he was lying. So I asked him and he said they were in the gym. So hooray! I beat the game with Fox Ray and Vernon as director. I'm glad it worked out, but that is very fun. Introduction of ride Pokemon to
Kaya mo na. Light natin yan. Light. Yeah.
For hitting machines. That was how they prevented progression until defeating certain gym leaders. Now some of these HM moves are pretty solid. Strength is not the best normal attack, but it's acceptable. Surf is one of the best walk moves in the game, and Fly thankfully is extremely powerful, while making moves definitely watching your party at all times. But most HM moves, Waterfall and Dive are strictly worse than Surf before Gen 4, but can maybe be justified after that if your water type is a physical attacker. Rock Time is under 100 power, yet has the pure accuracy of a much stronger move. Defense is only 50 power, and weirdly not even perfectly accurate. Rock Smash is only 40 power, but in Gens 2 and 3, it was only 20. And then worst of all, Defog and Flash. Defog lowers the enemy's evasion, which is mostly useless, and it also clears hazards on both sides of the field, which has some applications in competitive play, but not in a playthrough. But the Flash is truly awful. It lowers the enemy's accuracy by 1 stage, the same thing as Sand Attack. But like Sand Attack, in Gens 1, 2, and 3, Flash's accuracy was only 70%.
What?
Okay,
Yeah.
it's a flash of light. How do you miss? These moves are horrible, but unfortunately important for game progression in the earlier games, leading to the common mistake of teaching your main party members bad HM moves. Now, why am I naming HM moves specifically and not just teaching your Pokemon bad moves in general? Well, it's because you can't get rid of the frickin' HM moves. To prevent soft launches, HM moves can only be deleted by the move deleter. When overwritten when learning a new move upon leveling up. That means you can teach your Ivysaur Flash right when you get the HM. You can't delete it until you get access to the move deleter. And in Gen 1, there's no move deleter at all, meaning you have permanently ruined your starting move set. It's extra frustrating for Flash because starting in Gen 4, it was a deletable TM, but in Gens 1 through 3, it's a not deletable H. This is insane! It is a wholly optional move.
Wait, look at
It
these out.
moved easily, and I taught
Hey,
Flash
what's
to
the
attack my Pokemon in Leaf Green.
Come on,
I
come
taught
on,
my
guys.
Sceptile
Come on.
Cut, Flash, and Rock Smash, also had Leaf
Look
Blade,
at these
while it was
out.
a Trico slash Grovyle in my very first game, which was Emerald. And then when I tried to teach it another level up move, I
Guys,
couldn't get it to forget those
no!
3 moves
Yes.
and was frustrated. I didn't know about the move deleter at the time. So that Sceptile had 3 HM moves plus Leaf Blade, even in the Pokemon League battles as well. Yikes! I am eternally grateful
Guys.
that HM moves are gone. They were one of the
Guys.
most annoying
Guys.
pieces of Pokemon. You
Ow.
can't ride Pokemon, or even a
Guys.
stupid bike any day of the week. The Master Ball is the most useful Pokeball, and because of that, you can only get one in most games. Okay, I guess you can get one if, like, you win the lottery thing, but, like, that's just so unlikely. 99.999% of people, they're just gonna get one. Therefore, a Master Ball should only ever be used on a shiny or on a fleeting roaming legendary. But clearly, many of you did not follow that advice, and thus made the mistake of bad Master Ball usage. Using a Master Ball on a Ditto because I thought it was a legendary. I used it on a Rhydon right before Mewtwo in Let's Go. I saw in the anime Farfetch'd was rare, so I used my Master Ball on. When I was a kid, maybe 5 or 6, I was playing Pokemon Silver and used my Master Ball on a Delibird because I was sick of it fleeing on me. My parents, who were helping me catch Entei, Suicune, and Raikou, were so mad. When I got the Master Ball, I read that it captures anything without fail. I tested it out on a Snover. I was a little upset when I released the Snover and ball back. There are countless stories like these. This next one I think is my personal favorite. Throwing a Master Ball at Lorelai's Slowbro in yellow, because it can catch any Pokemon without fail. This person took the word any so literally, they tried to use it on a trainer's Pokemon. It's even more painful since using a ball on a trainer's Pokemon makes you lose the ball. So they didn't even get a Pokemon out of it.
Unhealthy habits. Your risk of lifestyle diseases. Try doctor-prescribed Central Effect.
The safe common feature in video games was not added to Pokemon until Sword and Shield. Only 5 years ago. Yes, it has already been half a decade since Sword and Shield came out. Time marches ever quicker. But before that, you have to remember to manually save. And it can be very easy to make the simple mistake of forgetting to save and suffering the consequences as a result. One bad time to forget to save is before fighting a legendary, since in many of the older games, you don't get any second chances if you knock it out. Although, little flex here, I did fake to save in front of Groudon in my very first Ruby playthrough. Didn't, see that advice anywhere. Came up with it myself. I'm very proud of that. I was an anxious child. Another consequence of not saving, though, is just losing progress. First ever playthrough of Blue as an 8-year-old, went through Rock Tunnel without Flash and made it without a guide. Got to Celadon and had to go to bed, and forgot to save after struggling to get through Rock Tunnel for 2 hours. Had to redo it the next day. Or, even worse, not saving the game after 5 hours of playing. But there's this one, which sounds like genuinely traumatizing, but also I have to admit I kind of doubt it. Playing through the entirety of Pokemon Heart Gold, almost beating the champion, then the game freezing for whatever reason, sending me back to the beginning of the game because I didn't save once the entire playthrough. I tried. Look, I want to be nice, but I don't believe you. Who in their right mind would not save for an entire playthrough? Did you just close the DS and leave it plugged in? Did people do that? This next mistake is a very painful one. And while I do feel sympathy for those of you who've done it, I also don't understand it. Pokemon games have always had a release feature to allow the player to clear out Pokemon if their boxes get full. I never found it necessary until modern games like Let's Go or Legends Arceus, where catching is quick and easy, and thus I never used the feature as a kid. But somehow, so many of you made the mistake of releasing a Pokemon you shouldn't. A lot of you ended up releasing your starter. Spoilers comment already mentioned him doing that, but there were more. Accidentally released my starter Blaziken while trying to swap it for a Macargo I'd just gotten and wanted to level up. My first time playing, I didn't understand how the PC/box worked and couldn't figure out how to get my starter back into my party. I thought release might be the way to get my Totodile back, my reasoning being that it would release the Pokemon from the box and back to me. Okay, at least this one has some reasoning behind it, but how did the Totodile get into the box in the first place? Then some others of you released Legendaries. I thought I was leaving the box, and instead I released my Thundurus from Pokemon White. I have been distraught since. I released my BDSP gift, Mew. And then, of course, so many of you released shiny Pokemon. I released a shiny Sandshrew thinking it was less cool than my regular Sandshrew. I had two Poochyena, one with gray fur and one with yellow fur. I released the one with yellow fur because it was significantly weaker and only knew Ice Fang. I will always regret this. When I was 10, I had a Lotad with Pokerus. I released it because I thought it was going to break my game. It was also a shiny. Thanks, bit of a double whammy there. If it's real. Both are shiny with Pokerus? Really? Really? Now, as I mentioned, as a kid, I never released any Pokemon, much less an important starter or legendary, so I have an important question for all of you out there who did make this mistake. Why didn't you just turn off the game? So many of the mistakes in this video are ones that are not immediately obvious or are ones you cannot fix, such as wasting time leveling up a trait evolution or losing progress because you didn't save. And for some of these, I kind of get it. It's like, if you don't understand the value of a shiny, you're more willing to release it. But you also could have just left it in the box. But not only is releasing a legendary or a starter, an obvious bad thing, it gives you immediate feedback. You've done it. It's like, oh, bye-bye, it's gone. And what? You just save after? You don't just turn off the progress up to that point. Get your starter back. Not immediately resetting your game to get rid of that mistake is insane to me. But I guess kids are insane. This is the second to last mistake on this list, and it is so painful, I'm genuinely grateful that I've never done it. Shiny Pokemon are awesome. They're rare and special different Pokemon, and in the older games, they are exceedingly difficult to find. Therefore, it really sucks when you find one and then don't catch it. Could be because it KOs itself, you get a badly timed crit, you're low on Pokeballs, etc. Those are painful, but most of the time they're bad luck or miscalculations. The far worse mistake is intentionally failing a shiny. Because if you do it on purpose and learn later what you did, not only do you not have the shiny,
Oh, bakit? 30 minutes na talaga. Okay, fine.
well, it's shiny because I thought it was a virus on my 3DS. Why is this sheet yellow? I want the original blue one. Kills it without hesitation. I once thought as a kid that the blue boulders in Chargestone Cave looked blue because of the blue crystals that you can find there. So I definitely ran away from more than one shiny boulder at some point in my childhood. Hey, it's a glitch. Restart your game. From my cousin, who is disowned in my eyes. Well, at least the last person is someone to blame other than themselves. Before I get to the most painful mistake in Pokemon, I wanted to read some other comments that you all left. They don't really fit into any other mistakes in this video because I don't think anyone else but the writers of these comments made these mistakes, which is why I want to mention them. They're so entertaining. My friend was told the Everstone prevented stat drops, so he had it on his starter near the entire game, trading away my first ever full odds shiny, then ending the friendship before getting it back. Not subscribing to M&J TV. Sorry, I thought I'd sneak that in there. Yeah, I would consider it a mistake, though. When I was 8 years old, every time an NPC or any Pokemon at all used Perish Song, I'd take off the sound of my device. I misunderstood the whole gotta catch 'em all motto. I have pictures of just Pokémon sitting on my Emerald cartridge from when I was 6. And now for my personal favorite. Growing up, my family owned a single computer. I was taught that we were not allowed to log onto each other's files on our own. So I got my first Pokemon game and found every Pokemon Center had a computer I would refuse to log into someone's PC because it was a breach of privacy. As such, I was stuck with only 6 Pokemon for months. Incredible. Spectacular. No notes. A perfect illustration of the fact that, like, it was weird that they had the Pokemon storage system named after someone that was not the player. Like, that was an odd thing that they did, right? But now for the final mistake. The most painful one. It's at the top of the list because not only can it ruin relationships, but it can do more damage than all of these other mistakes combined. Letting someone else destroy your game. Some of you let someone else play your game, and that someone else made one of the other mistakes in this video. But I'm talking about worse. Letting my little brother play Crystal version when he could barely read. Naturally, the first thing he did was start a new game, and he wasted all progress. My friend told me you can have 2 save files on Pokemon Sun, so I gave him my DS, and he got rid of 5 years of progress on my first Pokemon playthrough. This beloved Pokemon and years of progress wiped out by someone you once held dear. You lose so much, but you also bear a grudge. There's nothing worse that could happen except doing it yourself, like I did. My original Ruby save file, I wiped clean because I wanted all 3 starters to become Sapphire. What was I thinking? I have no one to blame but myself, and my mistake is more painful.
How?
Because not only do I have no one to blame but myself, but I am alone in my dream. Wiping out your own save file is not an entry in this video because no one else left comments about it. I am alone in my foolishness and suffering. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see another one, here's a video about 12 famous Pokemon theories and whether I think they're true. Some of them are...
Instead, Citlali does indeed appear, and she's quite the eccentric character and a little socially awkward, which makes sense because she's an old recluse and it's also endearing nonetheless. Just as Paige predicted, Citlali agrees to help the group with travelers to help prove that actually innocent. Citlali calls Traveler over and grieves their past. Wealth leads to unending conflicts between people, yet you alone transcend the value of gold as a reference to happiness. Vengeful Thunder is Inazuma, Wrathful Waves is Fontaine, O'Leary yet Fuso, possibly reference to Mondstadt, and finally, even the most fervent leaf in the forest will pray for your happiness and safe passage, a reference to Smurf. Just from that interaction alone, Citlali can tell travelers experienced far more than even most mortals, but still manages to maintain the heart of a sincere hero. She also senses some stowaway fragments of souls which stuck to Traveler during her visit to the Night Kingdom, and she shoos them away. This detail seems random, but it's actually foreshadowing for later. Of course it is. Citlali suggests that Trojan, an ancient name for an outlander or non-native, is beyond the jurisdiction of any of the 6 Lyok. Something of this magnitude requires the approval of the Lord of the Night. The Lord of the Night is an ancient entity that rules over the entire Night Kingdom, constantly barring the power of the sacred flame to combat the revolt. However, the Lord of the Night is currently in a deep slumber, and the only way to communicate with it is through a dream. You would need specific items to prepare a ceremony to achieve this dream state in order to talk to the Lord of the Night. Shilonen offers to procure the items necessary for the ceremony, and Traveler and Paramount investigate Auroran with Citlali. Citlali admits that prior to coming to the stadium to meet with Traveler and Paramount, she stopped by Auroran's home. Auroran lived alone, but she discovered a broken jaw. Something was wrong with his forges and aphids, and slash marks left by sledgehammer weapons. Auroran seems to be an innocent young man who lives an honest life, so what could he have possibly done to attract the team's attention? The group starts their investigation at Oreno's last known location. An eyewitness claims to have seen him speaking to Fatui soldiers at this spot. Again, as Oreno's mentor, and quite possibly one of the closest people to him, Petrali is convinced he is innocent and is being coerced by the Fatui. Ororon was left at the side of the road as an infant, and the people of the Master of the Nightmen took him in and had a hand in raising him. Once he reached adulthood, he built himself a house out in the countryside where he spends most of his days growing vegetables and wielding aphid. During the alleged struggle at Ororon's house, the aphids were disturbed, causing them to secrete a special type of phlogiston. Citlali suggests that they can use this aphid secretion substance to track Ororon's movements. Citlali uses a spell to temporarily transfer a portion of her senses to Traveler and Paimon in order for them to be able to see the trail of phlogiston. The trade-off, however, is Traveler and Paimon now also have access to her thoughts, albeit temporarily. The group finds an abandoned campsite and what appears to be a distress signal from Ororon. There's traces of a fight up ahead and the phlogiston trail divides. Citlali and Traveler split up. Traveler's trail suddenly ends and they hear a voice. They fall unconscious and wake up in the Night Kingdom where they meet Ororon.
Die!
It reveals that the phlogiston
Stop!
plots were a
What?
setup to lure
Stop!
Traveler
What?
into meeting
Stop!
Capitana.
Go ahead.
Capitana explains that in order for Traveler to learn of his plans and why he doesn't trust Malika, Traveler should meet him east of the stadium. But Ororon urges Traveler to keep this meeting a secret from Citlali. Traveler wakes up in the Night Kingdom and keeps his encounter with Capitana and Ororon a secret
Mama,
from
mine.
both Paimon and
Right.
Citlali. The other
That's
night,
all.
Citlali is
No.
able to follow
Yeah.
her phlogiston trail to the Fatui camp, where she believes Ororon is being held hostage. They arrive at the camp and indeed they find Ororon there. In a flight of rage, Citlali eliminates the Fatui camp and scolds Ororon. She asks him why he has sent Capitano back at the stadium, and he tells her that if he hadn't, the Fatui would have just gone for
Oh,
throw
whoa.
instead. No things to me during this scene is definitely different compared to when we saw him in the Night Kingdom. The group returns in the city and Citlali gives a report to Calliopa. The report states that Ororon came to Capitano's rescue because he promised to help him in exchange for Citlali's safety. Ororon and Citlali leave to find him a place to stay, and in the meantime, Traveler pulls Paimon aside to tell her that they're meeting with Capitano and Ororon in the Night Kingdom. I'm actually really glad Traveler didn't ultimately decide to hide things from Paimon, because I honestly love how much they trust each other. It's not like Paimon's gonna backstab us in the future or anything, right? Oyo? Right? The next evening, Traveler and Paimon secretly meet up with Ororon and Capitano at the designated spot. With how obviously plot-resistant Traveler is so far in the story, Capitano wants Traveler as an ally. In order to woo Traveler over to his side, he tries to convince them that Mavlika's plan is doomed from the start. In order to defeat the Abyss, Mavlika is insistent on gathering the 6 heroes of Natlan. But the problem is, 2 are still unidentified, and therefore unaware of her ancient plan. In order to not tamper with the ways of the Night Kingdom and the Wayab, and to allow the heroes to receive their ancient name as intended, Mavlika prefers for the ancient name-bearers themselves to establish a greater connection to their names and be notified of the ancient plan. Although presumably not one of the 6 heroes, Capitano is aware of Mavlika's plan, having kept a close eye on her all this time. Ooh la la. With the growing abyssal attacks, time is running out, and Capitano isn't sure that the power of the 6 heroes will even be enough to
What?
drive past the abyss. To be fair, he actually has a point because the previous name bearers of the 6 heroes from 500 years ago all died with the lore and talking stick. Not to mention, we've seen some of their spirits already in previous cutscenes. Capitano reveals that Mavlika has been hiding an emergency plan all along. It's allegedly a way to keep Natlan intact even if her original plan fails, but it comes with a painful
That's
price.
dumb.
Traveler assumes
Die.
this backup plan has something to do with
Ah!
the crisis. After all, so far in the series, it has been the Fatui's
Ah!
to
Just
retrieve
mas...
the world
Ay,
themselves,
oo, as no.
with them having
Okay
possession
guys,
of
so
every
for the video,
medicine
share,
from
share,
Korea
and...
to
Bye.
supply.
Just
But
enjoy
the
it. Make sure to like, share, and...
trying to seize
Shut
the
up.
really for the series.